More Than Just Bubbles by Drs. Nicholas Bird and Dr. Franz Cronier. As divers, are we too concerned about decompression sickness? The greatest risks to divers are discussed in this article, including some fatalities that have stemmed from human factors. Diving grants us great freedom to explore. It offers the opportunity to experience what most people only see on film. As terrestrial creatures, we are ill-adapted to the aquatic world, but nonetheless eager to survey its wonders. For divers new to the sport as well as seasoned veterans, each dive is unique and requires diligent preparation prior to entering the water. Divers recognize that any excursion into or under the water carries some risk of injury. The question is, do we actually pay the most of our attention to the greatest risks to our health and safety, or don't we? In numerous articles, seminars and presentations, Dan is a vocal advocate for physical and mental preparation prior to diving, including physical fitness, equipment maintenance, and skills training. In practice, however, decompression sickness, or DCS, frequently becomes the ultimate focal point. DCS is very well represented throughout Dan's publications and research, and also forms an integral part of all introductory dive training programs. Ironically, however, DCS is actually relatively rare compared to many other common injuries and ailments that are far more likely to occur while diving or whilst on a diving trip. Moreover, DCS is neither the most severe injury, nor is it the most likely to be fatal. So what is the actual risk to divers? What harms divers? Dan has been gathering diving injury and fatality statistics for more than 30 years. In 2008, a team of researchers, led by Dr. Peter de Nobel, published a paper on the causes underlying diving fatalities. While the ultimate endpoint is usually classified as drowning, the triggering events that lead to these deaths provide insight into how such accidents can be avoided. For instance, health-related problems such as heart disease account for approximately 26% of dive fatalities. Other triggering events, like running out of gas, contribute 41%. Entrapment contributes 20%, and trouble with equipment contributes 15%. This illustrates the fact that the majority of dive fatalities stem from human factors. This is a recurring theme throughout the published literature on accidents and mishaps, even in other fields, such as in medicine itself and aviation. It also points to the importance of procedure, consistent practice, and disciplined focus on accident avoidance. Running out of gas, entrapment, and equipment problems, 3 human-related triggers, account for about 75% of diving fatalities. The common pathway towards in-water incapacitation in most of these cases was asphyxia or rapid ascent associated with pulmonary barotrauma, which is lung overexpansion injuries, and subsequent arterial gas embolism or AGE. In the rather unforgiving aquatic environment, incapacitation or unconsciousness unfortunately usually results in drowning. It is also important to emphasize the significance of AGE in the fatality statistics and to differentiate that from DCS. AGE is far more likely to lead to drowning, as the symptoms often occur while the diver is still in the water, and onset is sudden, often leading to loss of consciousness. DCS, on the other hand, is almost never fatal in recreational diving. DCS in perspective. When considering all the effort that goes into DCS prevention, including extensive dive table training, dive planning, dive table calculations, completing logbooks, and the use of dive computers, divers tend to lose perspective of the fact that DCS is actually quite rare. DCS incidence rates are low in recreational diving. The aggregated DCS incidence from all sources is only 2 to 4 cases per 10,000 dives. In addition, DCS is rarely fatal, and at least amongst recreational divers, an uncommon cause of long-term disability. Please note that this is not an endorsement of unsafe decompression practices or an encouragement to slacken preventative efforts. Even though severe symptoms, long-term disability and death are indeed rarely associated with DCS, this is the result of conservative training standards, adherence to established protocols, and diligent monitoring of nitrogen exposure. However, the point is that divers should not be so preoccupied with DCS prevention that they ignore all the other aspects of their diving activities, no matter how mundane they may seem. We must, for example, ensure adequate air supply and properly configured equipment. On a statistical basis, errors and omissions in these areas have far greater lethal potential than DCS. Shifting the focus. Decompression-related problems represent only a fraction of the injuries and medical problems that traveling divers experience. Dive trips often involve other forms of recreational activities and thus additional sources of injury. Of the calls that Dan receives from symptomatic individuals who receive evacuation or medical care coordination, about 70% have injuries that are unrelated to diving. This is a powerful statistic, and it points to other causative factors. Trauma tops the lists as the single most common injury type, from broken legs to car accidents. Dan's evacuation services spend the most time on injuries acquired out of the water. So, whether cycling, driving, walking or riding a scooter, the risk of injury while out of the water certainly warrants attention. If you are a diver who wears multiple computers to ensure adequate DCS prevention, do not put all your safety eggs in that basket and forget to watch your footing on boat ladders. Increase your caution while traveling in areas that have different traffic patterns than those with which you are familiar. Crossing a street with cars traveling in the opposite side of the road is a common scenario for pedestrian injuries and tourists. Injury prevention is even more important in remote locations where the local quality of medical services may be deficient, and transportation and evacuation to higher levels of medical care may cause delays to receiving optimal care, and this may contribute to additional complications. Accidents are, by definition, unplanned. Our best defense against them is vigilance and education, which enhance our knowledge of potential hazards. It guides our behavior, and that reduces their likelihood and makes us anticipate problems before they occur. First aid and rescue diver courses do not just teach people what to do when accidents happen, they also promote heightened awareness and a mindset of prevention. Live safely, dive safely, and may all your dives and travels be accident and injury-free. Thank you for listening to this program and for supporting Divers Alert Network.